For one, we'll be talking about this. Hello there, welcome to Top House News. We'll be doing another. We'll be updating on the situation around the U.S.-Iran war. Currently, as of now, at the very minute that I'm recording, because things keep changing every few minutes, right? You know, Donald Trump lets us do this, you know, to distract us from Epstein files, as always. Another 13 countries have entered the conflict. The UK is currently in negotiation, and Indonesia is currently wanting to put down the tension between Iran, Kuwait, right? Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, yada yada, same Middle Eastern countries. So they are wanting to up the game and basically say they want to go full nuclear. And if anybody is my guest, why are we going full nuclear? Alright, so let me tell you a very short story that started with Donald Trump being, well, basically elected as President of the United States. Basically, while he talks about the beautiful construction of his ballroom, he basically said we do not care to Iran's face, right? And said, hey Israel, we're gonna aid you in your genocide, and we're gonna basically invade Iran for you. Well, a few other countries now want to aid Israel now, and a few want to aid Iran. And some of them is North Korea, which out of random, yes, North Korea said, oh, we're gonna join in on the gang, right? We're gonna join in on this thing. We're gonna defend, you know, Iran and stuff, right? The same, you know, the country that everybody knows are having a full-on dictatorship, right? Where absolutely nobody can question their government. Well, we are now in an oligarchic government. The United States isn't exactly the most trusting country anymore. And so with countries like the UK basically detaching from the United States, you get the result of the United States basically being squared up now, where now every country in the Middle East is saying F you to the United States. And now at the very moment, they want to go nuclear. And already we have 3 US jets being taken down. As I'm speaking, yes, official US jets were taken down by Middle Eastern combatants. And yes, there are signs that there are foot soldiers that are going to be used. What this signifies is a very large Middle Eastern regional war that's going to go on. Now, is a regional war going on? Is it official? It wasn't official back then. Now it is, actually. But there's something that we need to put in a perspective here, because then we're only talking about people dying, and we need to actually talk about the economics that come from people dying needlessly from the bloody war that was unauthorized and not voted for by Congress. It was just randomly done. So every one of those troops that are listening to what Donald Trump's saying are basically abiding to an illegal order. But we're going to talk about the economics on this, right? We can't forget the 6 troopers who have currently died as of 6:27 p.m., right? And at 6:27 p.m. Eastern Time when I was recording this, we have been getting recent reports that 6 people now have officially died. A lot of U.S. bases around the surrounding territories in Iran have been invaded by Middle Eastern country combatants. And we have oil and gas that comes up in the conversation when we think about it. Something that gets on my mind very quickly is how most gas usually is, well, provided to by Middle Eastern countries. And when Middle Eastern countries basically say F you to the United States, and when basically the United States and Iran is basically using the entire Middle Eastern regional front as a battlefield, you know what happens? Inflation. And when gas prices and oil prices inflate by 15 to 17 fucking %, you will start to notice people wondering why gas seems expensive. Now, for those who are involved with the current climate of the world right now and not just ignoring everything and going on TikTok and Instagram watching reels of their favorite nuisance content creators making jokes about racist tangents and all sorts of things, right? And talking about you shouldn't talk about politics, right? All that type of thing. While everybody was doing all of that, the world was basically lighting itself on fire. Not only did the Green Party win the by-election in the UK, which by the way isn't the full real election just yet, we gotta wait just a little longer. In my state specifically, something that came to funny, it was kind of funny when I realized this. I should have been a lot more upfront about this. There's a certain somebody that I met previously in Florida long ago that might have been the very causing, factor of why I have been unemployed for such a long time. and it happens to be Ana Bolena Luna, which, by the way, ironic, her name sounds like that of a Hispanic or Latin citizen of the United States, right? You would expect that. She is a MAGA sellout piece of shit. And I met her back when I was in high school, and I just never knew her name, I just knew her face. Seems that she was voted in 2 times successfully in the district that I live in. Now, I am publicly front about where I live. Not directly where I live, but in a region where I live. And she seemingly took control of everything around the Pinellas County area, and I just never really decided to care to search about it online until now. And it seems that she is in full support of the Iran war, which, by the way, is no longer just an Iran war. Statistically and factually proven, this is not just US versus Iran now. It's now the US versus another 8 friendly countries combined together, which would cause needless death once again. And again, they've already attacked US bases, US fortresses, US ships, which are probably going to be next. They've already taken out jets, they've taken out all the sorts of, they're taking on aerospace, right? Now they're doing land, right? They're doing land. If they're attacking bases, they are going on land. And I've already seen clips of, well, really horrible things that I can't unsee. And then there's footage of basically innocent children being blown into smithereens. And if anybody who is, cultured long enough to have witnessed the internet's uprising from the early 2000s and early 2010s, you will know what I'm talking about. Lots of really horrible people from Israel love posting about the genocide that they are causing, which at first started from an invasion from another country. And if you do your history and your research, which most of you probably don't do, Israel actually had a reason to defend itself until it started causing a genocide for no reason. And sometimes those soldiers, which are young soldiers, unfortunately brainwashed by their government, end up doing some really horrible things and then recording it and posting it online. And if anybody is, who's like me, who randomly falls upon this type of post, you would find lots of footage of children being decapitated, cut off, or even dripped off of their blood by buckets and literally executed on camera on video in 4K footage. Yes, innocent children being abused right on camera. And I saw this very famous photo posted recently by News, by the way, which I'm not going to put on screen, is a photo of a backpack of an elementary school student who used to go to school. It was bloodied, and it was covered in blood, and the child literally died on the spot. Why? Because the bomb blew up and blew up 8 of their friends. Now, if you want to be my guest, and you want to continue to deny that the world's being, lit on fire, and you rather stay in touch and at least be informed about what could be happening next and predicting what could be happening next, think of, let's say, want to make it easy for you. How Trump has basically, how he basically does the exact opposite of everything. You would think, alright, so if people are fighting for climate change and they hate climate change and they're in support of, ethical energy sources, what would be the thing that Donald Trump would do in this situation? You would have to think. All you have to do is think the opposite way. Predict it. So what is Donald Trump going to do to dissipate the tension between the 13 countries that he's making a fuss in? Escalate it. Just like how he did, what he did with the LA riots, rather than dissipating or maybe squishing down the tension, maybe doing something about it, rather than doing that, he only escalated it, and then another 10 people died. Now we have the troopers dying. What would you think he would do if 13 countries, Middle Eastern ones that supply our gas and oil, what do you think he would do once we got them in our hands, basically blooding ourselves with endless blood? What would you think he would do? So here's my prediction. Rather than dissipating or calming down the situation and maybe leading it to a ceasefire along with Indonesia and the UK, out of all people, ironically, he probably will escalate it and cause more needless death. Just like he said in his recent interview that I saw online, posted around 4 hours ago as the current time I was posting this video and recording it. And he said in his response around the Iran situation, saying the Iran war is kind of bad. You know, we will lose a few soldiers, and it might go on for the next 4 weeks, a month, or longer. And you know, the soldiers, they're fighting hard for our country. Oh, did you know? Look at the drapes of my curtain. You know, I really like gold. The curtains, they look really cool. There's gonna be like this huge hole on the wall soon, like a really beautiful building. And so basically, that was his response to the Iran situation. No, literally, that is his response to the Iran situation. If anybody is watching this video who wants to do research, wants to find this, he literally made an interview with the press in the United States talking about Iran, then suddenly sidetracking it over to his ballroom that he is building for the White House. Anyway, so basically, make sure to leave a like on the video to get this video anywhere else, literally, algorithmically. If you don't do it, this video basically dies, but you know, how could I care now at this point? But if you subscribe to the channel, by the way, I did hit 6K. Why am I recording a happy 6K video talking about Iran out of all? Long story. If anybody's been watching this channel for the past year, you would know why I'm talking about Iran. You know, I remember 1 year ago, the very video I posted on February 2025, you know what I was posting about? Games. Nah, I'm not posting about games now. I'm talking about death and crazy stuff, but you know, it's not too bad once you get too used to it, but you know, people can get desensitized. By the way, that's another subject for another day. Okay, I've been killing these things over and over. All these NPCs, they're not too difficult, kind of bearable. Let me take out this UFO. Did the Projecttian just ask for people to subscribe to his YouTube channel on a video in relation to genocide? Absolutely, I absolutely did, because there's absolutely nothing else to talk about on my channel. Look, if I had been playing games like an idiot and talking about myself and talking about some girlfriend I met or something, you know what people would think of me? They would clown on me, call me names, and call me all sorts of mental illness names. Just so you all know. On this channel, this has been a gaming channel for like 5 years, and until only 3 years ago did my channel start saying, you know what, the gaming content is kind of unbearable. Every time I've been making gaming videos, the response I would get from just a bunch of 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds who watch my channel would just be, why are you gaming? There are world issues going on. And I was like, oh really? You think I don't know about world issues? And so I took them to debate, and they all lost against the person who wasn't even 18 years old. I was still in high school when I debated a bunch of 40-year-olds who supposedly have lived on this country 2 times more than I did. But you know, sometimes people could be under a boulder and not know what is going on with the world, even though they are 40 years old. Statistically, economically, pathologically, sociologically, and ethically, they are slow. They're slow as fuck and don't know what they are talking about. This is why you should rely on experts. And because of what the administration is doing, experts like me constantly get scrutinized for using facts rather than just emotion and a bunch of misinformation that Donald Trump said, because all the debates I've been dealing with on my channel have recently only been because Donald Trump said so, as their credible, reliable source of information, which is not a credible, reliable source of information. This video is literally going to be an entire sarcastic rant about how, you know, for how people just for 1 year proceeded to just ignore all that was going on, and only until a year later people started saying, you know what, I care now. You know how many things Donald Trump has committed this past year for people to finally go, oh wait, he is actually bad. You know how many things? He's committed over 300 different types of crimes, right? He's an accomplice to 300 different crimes that court is going to have to later take him to court with. You know, to later investigate him with, besides the Epstein files, because it took that until, you know, now for people to go, oh, Donald Trump's an issue, we should probably vote him out. And you know, if I'm right, historically, US presidents have been impeached or arrested for way less. And if I'm right, Donald Trump's the only one to ever be put into arrest as a president. And you know, it took a sort. Let's see, violations against human nature. He violated numerous laws. He violated international laws, citizen laws. He violated court laws. He's literally in contempt of court of state of law for the accusations, which by the way are hundreds of accusations. He's already had literally participated in the deaths of millions of people, which by the way, if anybody remembers, he cut USID, and USID AID is a pact formation agreement deal that the United States, Mexico, and Canada signed, and he basically said F off to Mexico and Canada, which are, by the way, one of our closest allies. He did that in 2025, and now millions of people are dying. Well, when we get to 2030, then we start saying millions of people. But then he also cut healthcare by $1 trillion fucking dollars. And now people who are looking at the medical bills, they're all wondering, why is my medical bill so high up? Because none of you paid fucking attention and let your constituents vote for the cut of $1 trillion to healthcare, which by the way is the highest fucking cut to healthcare. Record cut. He's breaking records. I admit, he's really good at breaking records in the cost of hurting millions of people. Now, Elon Musk also was so the very benefit factors that led to that cut, right? He did do that, and he did. When that continuous resolution bill kind of passed, right? The big ugly bill passed. We also had billionaires get their taxes cut, right? While all the U.S. citizens had to pay for all the tariffs, which, by the way, if anybody does their research for once, when tariffs happen and they fail, usually the government pays back the tariffs, right? Because citizens and consumers are the ones mostly affected by tariffs, and small business owners, not like large ones that are, funding Donald Trump and all of his MAGA loyalists in the government right now. But they hurt consumers and small businesses. I happen to be a consumer, and I happen to know people who are in small business who are like in their 20s and 30s or 50s, and they've been affected. Guess what Donald Trump did? He said, oh, we're going to pay it back to companies that are large. So, not only is he causing atrocities, he's also supporting this huge AI division aspect of things, right? He wants to help fund AI in the industry, which is, by the way, now leading to the AI bubble, which will also kill lots of people. Which, by the way, the death spiral has already happened. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying in outside countries, and hundreds of thousands of people will be dying from sickness. And just what? Measles came back. If anybody knows what measles is, measles kind of resurged. And if anybody has done their history, measles usually is some of the most rarely caught diseases now, because vaccines and healthcare and health science kind of advanced in these past few decades. Now it's resurging. I'll say thanks to that because of RFK. RFK, absolute genius man. The same man who said he sniffed cocaine off of his toilet seat back when he was younger. The same man who was Democratic back in the day, who's now a full-on straight MAGA Republican loyalist piece of shit. Yeah, that man, he's removed the vaccine mandate for most teens now and most kids, which, by the way, need those vaccines so that we don't have those diseases in the first place, which, by the way, were avoided 60 years ago. And they are removing the right to most Americans, which, by the way, is happening because of the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act, which basically disables 21 million fucking Americans from voting, which are citizens, by the way, citizens. He's basically already rigging before even the midterms happen, right? He wants to rig it. And while he's distracting people with his racist comments and all these things, he's starting a war with Iran and all these other 13 countries that now jumped in, along with UK and Indonesia. As I'm recording right now, I can't even focus on the game because everything I'm listing is just a few of the things he did, like the LA riots, the Chicago riots. He also did the entire Minnesota thing, right? With all the ICE and the fuck ICE thing, which, by the way, fuck ICE, fuck Donald Trump, fuck fascism. He did do that as well, and now we have not only new reports of by the way, another hitting murder case, which was done by an ICE agent, where a teenage boy seemingly was run over and, well, basically killed by an ICE agent. It happened in 2025 underneath Trump's regime, and nobody knew about it until recent news said that an autopsy was discovered to be, caused by an ICE agent in 2025, which nobody knew about because back in 2025, we never would have thought that the Department of Justice of the United States of America would have faked a murder case. They would have gotten away with it. The body was disposed of, but fortunately found it, and it seems that before even Renee Good and Alex Petty died, which were unit citizens, before they were, the ones counted as first, killed by an ICE agent ever in history, an actual teenage boy was the first actual case of an ICE agent killing a United States citizen. Besides immigrant deaths caused by ICE agents killing people and putting them in concentration camps like the one we have in Alligator, Alcatraz, which is funded and completely built by Republicans in Florida, which is in my very own state. That is a crazy thought to have, because I've seen footage of all of the concentration camps that they're building, that they're trying to fund, like the data centers that they're building, and lots of those concentration camps look like concentration camps to me. And absolutely nobody actually is talking enough about them, because guess what? It is too hard to watch, and most people don't want to talk about really serious things, even though most people like me are seen as illegal aliens, threats, and terrorists. The same people who say talking about politics is too much and is too dangerous, now the ones who are saying that are now put in jail cells or fully censored and from ever speaking ever again. Which says a lot about this country's hypocrisy, and some of the hypocritical comments I've been seeing on people saying that it's too extreme to talk about it. Now they're put in jail cells and probably getting their rights stripped off. And probably wondering, why does my life suck? And not realizing why their life sucks, I hope gives them an awareness to how ignoring politics in world situations doesn't exactly make it disappear and go away, because it doesn't seemingly go their way. So, in a last resort, for the 100th, the 1000th, or 2000th time on this channel, vote blue, protest peacefully, F ICE, F Trump, F fascism, know your rights. You're gonna need to know your rights, because there have been numerous cases of people getting assaulted by ICE agents and police officers that have now been basically instigated to cause violence, because they know that being a racist in this country has never been better. So be careful, record everything no matter what. In a world where now facts are seen as a form of harassment for some reason, where people are calling the scientists conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theorist saviors, or the secret messengers of God for some reason. We need people recording this stuff, because for sake, when this goes down in history, let me tell you, it's going to be quite the story to tell. Hoping that this country is most likely safe and doesn't randomly go into a second Great Depression or a huge AI bubble crisis where the entire AI industry collapses, causing our GDP to fall down by 3 to 5%, which is, by the way, really bad, along with our oil and gas prices skyrocketing, which hopefully won't happen. But with how Trump is, he's going to escalate the situation and probably will make inflation worse in many different numerous ways, which are not so good. So vote blue, vote young candidates, don't vote in old people who take money from IPAC, which, by the way, PAC is a political action committee. Make sure to vote in people who fight for healthcare as a right. Make sure they support free healthcare universally. Make sure they help with climate change, that they aid in LGBTQ, that they understand that their voters are real human beings, and that they support raising the minimum wage and uncapping the House of Representatives. And that's all I have to say. Let me get this fell off my back here real sec. Alright, here we go. By the way, that's all I have to say. Now, it might escalate just because this video might be outdated later, because situation is changing really quickly. So all I have to say is, stay safe out there. And for those of the people who I know who are in those Middle Eastern countries, because I have friends from Middle Eastern countries, stay informed, keep your head up, look around, beware of your surroundings, be careful of who you believe in, record the violence, make sure to know your name, have your legal information ready, because the world's about to get really ugly. And more ugly because it's already ugly, but it's getting worse, right? Just be careful out there. Also, make sure to not vote in for candidates who desperately try to get your vote by vaguely posing themselves as a democratic socialist vaguely. You gotta be careful because this is an oxymoron, is that in Japan, the Democratic Party is actually conservative, and that the Conservative Party of Japan is actually democratic. You gotta be careful of that. So people, make sure to do your research on the candidates, look into what they support, look into who funds them, and if they are funded by IPAC, you know the drill, don't vote them in. That's all I have to say. Go beyond limit, share kindness. And that is my final remark. If a nuclear war does start and North Korea says FU, that would be bad, but you know. Alright. Here we go. I died. Oops.